Hello, everyone. My name is Alena Jabarine. I'm a German Palestinian journalist and author. And I feel very honored to host the presentation of a very special book today, Daybreak in Gaza, Stories of Palestinian Life and Culture, which was published in October 2024 by Saki Books in London and will soon be released in German as well in spring. I'm also delighted to welcome the two editors of this book, Mahmoud Muna from Palestine and Matthew Teller from the UK. By the way, two very impressive personalities with a lot of knowledge and a lot of stories, and if you have the chance to talk to them, do it. Mahmoud is a Palestinian writer and publisher, contributing to the London Review of Books and the Jerusalem Quarterly. He's known as a bookseller in Jerusalem as well, and many of us who had the chance to visit Jerusalem, lucky enough to visit Jerusalem, might have visited him in his educational bookshops, places that embrace you warmly in a very intense and magical city. Matthew Teller is a UK-based author and journalist whose work is published internationally, and he's the author of 9 Quarters of Jerusalem, a new biography of the old city. Now, a quick note before we begin. Mahmoud and Matthew will be available after the talk to sign your copies, which you can and should buy at the desk over there. And we are also collecting donations for Medicus Gaza Support Fund via a QR code, which you can find on the screen, but also there is a medical colleague over there. Please be generous because the help is very much needed. Okay, the QR code just vanished, but it was there. Riyadh is over there. And the QR code is there, so please donate. Mahmoud and Matthew, with this book you have given all of us a gift, and I really mean it, by collecting and preserving voices, stories, and memories in a time of destruction, in a time of genocide. You've opened a window for imagination and shed light on untold stories, such as those of Gaza's Armenian or Afro-Palestinian communities, and you've given platform to storytellers from Gaza, also in Gaza, hence offering a new perspective on a discourse that often criminalizes or victimizes, rather than recognizing Palestinians as what they are, individual human beings with individual stories. So I'd like to start by giving each of you the stage for a few minutes before we move into a short conversation, and then if we have time, also take a few questions from the audience. Matthew?
Perfect. Thank you very, very much indeed. Yeah, so the format will be I'll speak for, I guess, about 10, 12, 15 minutes, and I'll pass to Mahmoud, who will speak for the same, and then we'll go into conversation mode. So, thank you very, very much indeed for coming today as well. I just want to start by reading a short extract, which is by a writer whose name is Yusuf Racha. More noise. That's for the desk at the back. Louder, please, people say. And also, I will project to the back of the room too. No matter what they say or do in the world that your civilization has wrought, Palestinians remain alone and irrelevant. Their existence has no density. So much so that in many circles, the principal objection to what is happening in Gaza is that it might radicalize a new generation of Palestinians and thus end up hurting Israelis or Westerners again. It's as if they are wicked spirits that taunt you every time you look in the mirror, and you poor things, you just want to comb your hair in peace. Gaza is not my city, and Palestine is not my country, and they never will be. Because of the passport that I hold, British, because of my skin color, because of the fact that I was born into a Jewish family, I am very lucky to have been able to visit Palestine dozens of times, hundreds of times maybe, since I was a child. The only foreign holidays that we ever took when I was growing up were to Israel. When I was 13, my father arranged for me to have my bar mitzvah twice, once in the synagogue that we went to at home in London, and again at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Pro-Zionist narratives filled the first 20 years of my life. The next 20, thanks again to my passport and to my skin color and to the fact that I'm a man and the bundle of privileges that come along with that, I was able to travel freely and move around. I lived in Cairo, I lived in Amman, I visited Sabra and Shatila in Beirut, I traveled through Syria and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf and all over Palestine, listening to new stories or listening to new ways of telling the stories that I thought I already understood. Slowly grasping the scale of the injustice that had been committed, ostensibly in my name and for my benefit. I am not Israeli, and I am anti-Zionist. I reject the legacy of the place I was born, Britain, and the politics of the family that I was born into, and I stand for justice and for dignity and for a free Palestine. This extract is by a man called Yusuf Achouri. He is a Christian theologian, born and brought up in Gaza. He now lives in Bethlehem in Palestine. He said this to us, quote, "Today, I think I am in a phase of depression or denial over what's happening in Gaza. It is simply too much to protest, to process. We have been misrepresented as bloodthirsty, illiterate terrorists, but we are not. We are a beautiful, life-loving, caring community that will host you, feed you, and protect you. The world needs Gazans, people who refuse to give in to despair, who will always find a way to prevail. You cannot erase Gaza. You can destroy Gaza. You can occupy Gaza, but you will never take it away from us. It's the same as in 1948 when the colonizers tried to erase Palestine from our memory and failed. And now they are trying again. We will not give up. We will not give in. We will always rebuild Gaza in our memories, in our imaginations, and in our hearts until one day we will rebuild Gaza for real." Unquote. Gaza wasn't always a strip. This tiny sliver of land with its fortified fences all around it is an invention of 20th century power politics. This is just the last bit of land that the Egyptian army was able to defend against Israeli aggression when the armistice lines were drawn in 1949. It has no historical validity whatsoever. Before Israel, under the British occupation, Gaza, known as a sub-district, was a much larger area that took in neighboring towns and villages and lots of fertile agricultural land. And before that, under the Ottomans, Gaza, which was administered from Jerusalem, took in this wide hinterland of terrain up and down the coast and also down into the desert as well. And all of that is just to say that the administrative space known as Gaza has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk again down to the blockaded concentration camp that we see today. And all of that, of course, doesn't reflect what you might call the psychogeography of the place. This is a work by the Gaza artist Hiba Zakut, and she's painted herself in this state of imagined, idealized freedom before the Nakba, standing in the fields and the trees and the houses of Isdud. And Isdud was one of those villages in that hinterland behind Gaza. It was depopulated at gunpoint in 1948 and is now absorbed into the Israeli city of Ashdod. But it was once Gaza. And Gaza's history goes way back, before Israel, of course, but before Islam and before Christianity and before Judaism. Very early in the bombardment on October the 13th of 2023, the artist Hiba was killed in an Israeli attack from the air, along with two of her children. She was 39 years old. Her art lives on. If you can please Google her name, find her art on Instagram, online. Her family is keeping her legacy alive. Her art is beautiful and creative and 100% Gaza and deserves to be recognized. This book is full of extraordinary women. This is another woman, Noor Swerki. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip forward just a little bit. Noor's piece, I urge you in the book to read it as well. I'm going to skip forward because I want to refer to how Gaza's bombardment is not the first. Gaza has been destroyed and rebuilt countless times. And what I want to do at this point is to play you an audio clip. A very short audio clip of 1 minute, which was recorded more than a year ago now by Mohammed Al-Kurdi, who is a doctor who was working in Gaza, still is working in Gaza. And in May of last year, he recorded this.
I was driving from Khan Yunis to Deir al-Balah, taking the coastal road, from where one is able to catch sight of Gaza, my home. Smoke was coming from the western part of it, and that's where I lived. Literally, my neighborhood was burning, or in other words, my home was burning. What killed me most was when I turned on the radio, Fairuz was streaming and singing, "Take me home, Ruddani ila biladi." When it first started, they said only 3 days and you'll get back home. And now we're counting more than 7 months. Living the worst conditions a human being can endure. Displaced. The majority of us thirsty with no access to drinking clean water. Sometimes hungry. Surrounded by death and destruction.
For Daybreak in Gaza, we talked to more than 100 people in Arabic and also in English. There were lots of stories which we will come to. I want to just very briefly draw your attention to this is a poster for an event which never happened. Gaza was down to be the host city for the African Men's Basketball Championships of 1967. But as you can see maybe from the date, just before, a few weeks before, Israel invaded in June of 67 and occupied and is still there, and the basketball never happened. But finding evidence of Gaza's identity as an African city and a center of African sport added for me new depths of layers of understanding of Gaza's social background, particularly in these middle years of the 20th century. And of course, Gaza didn't lose that African influence. We were honored to be able to include stories from Gaza's current African Palestinian minority, including Haifa, who is a professional singer and a voiceover artist. And she talked very openly with Mahmoud about the racism and the sexism that she's experienced in her personal life and her professional life. And she said also, quote, "I love the fact that as people of color, we are part of mixed cosmopolitan, diverse Palestinian society, unquote. Haifa's story is one of the amazing stories in this book. I'm going to let Mahmoud take over now with some idea of more stories and how this book came about. Thank you very much for listening to me.
My name is Noor el-Din Hajjaj. I'm a Palestinian writer. I'm 27 years old and I have many dreams. I'm not a number and I do not consent to my death being passing news. Say too that I love life, happiness, freedom, children's laughter, the sea, coffee, writing, Fairuz, everything that is joyful, though all these things will disappear in a space of a moment. One of my dreams is for my books and my writings to travel the world, for my pen to have wings that no unstamped passport or visa rejection can hold back. Another dream of mine is to have a small family, to have a little son who looks like me, and to tell him a bedtime story as I rock him in my arms. My greatest dream is that my country will have peace, that children will smile more brightly than the sun, that will plant flowers in every place a bomb once fell, that will trace out our freedom on every wall that has been destroyed, that war will finally leave us alone so we can for once live our lives. Noor el-Din Hajjaj is born in 1996. A writer from Gaza, his novel Wings That Do Not Fly came out in 2021. And in 2022, his first play, The Grey One, was performed on stage. Noor could have been with us today, here in Frankfurt. But unfortunately, he was one of the hundreds of people killed on the 2nd of December 2023, when an Israeli war bombed his 50 residential buildings in Shuja'iyya in Gaza City. For people who appreciate words and books and literature, it is the cultural figures and the writers and the academics are among the most that we miss in today. And for me, who are based in Jerusalem, son of a Nakba survivor, my dad lived through the Nakba of 1948. I lived through 2 intifadas and a peace process, and now the war in Gaza. And when the war was happening, I was asking myself what I can do. I'm sitting between my books and between the literature, talking to writers and editors, and we're asking ourselves, every day we feel complete hopelessness, complete helplessness, and the question was, what can I do? I was meeting all those journalists who came our way, all the people who came to visit and to check, all the reporters. At that time, every person who spent 2 nights in a hotel in Dubai became a Middle East expert, and they all came my way telling me what happens, what should happen, what will happen, and I was like a good boy knocking my head and saying, okay, yes, yes, yes. And then I will see them at 8 o'clock reporting on their international media about an area that they just landed in 2 days before. And I was listening to Israeli media and hearing what the Israelis are analyzing and speaking and talking. And I was speaking about many people. And I was asking, where are the voice of the victims? Where are the Gazans' voice? Why it is suddenly not coming to us? Is it by design? Is it meant to be? The lack of journalists being still not able to be in Gaza, meaning so many of those human stories are not coming to us. So I started my conversation with Matthew and other people, and we started to reach out to people that we know, mostly in the culture and art scene. And then we widen it up to doctors and engineers and theologians and athletes and all types of walks of people. And we wanted to seek out their stories. We did not ask them, how are you? Which was the most stupid question and the most difficult question to ask. We asked them, tell us more. Tell us more about your life before, tell us about your life now, tell us about whatever you wanted to say. My dad, who survived 1948, didn't want to talk. For years, I was trying to tell him to tell me about his life back then, before and after. He didn't. He wanted to move on. He doesn't want to bring me into that trauma. He refused. So I imagined that the people in Gaza didn't want to talk, but I was wrong. They wanted to talk. They wanted to talk at length. I remember this guy I was talking to around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the line was very patchy and the connection wasn't good. He said, look, call me at midnight. I'll move somewhere where there is a good internet, and then we can have a longer conversation. And I was like, yeah, that's great. I'll call you at midnight. Only after a few minutes to think, like, wow, someone is moving at night, the most risky of times, in the dark, to go somewhere just so he can talk to me. That sense of responsibility is what we carry with these stories, people who trusted us with their life stories and their hopes and their dreams. This book will surely make you cry, and crying is absolutely fine. If we don't cry now, I don't know what will make us cry. But it will make you also hopeful. It will make you also wanting to learn more, wanting to engage more, wanted to ask questions like mine, tell me more and tell me more. And I think that's the most humanist of all. Taking away the rights of people to tell their stories is the most dehumanizing act that we can do. And what we aim for this book is to give that right back to people to tell their own stories in their own names. I was born in Thank you. I was born in 1982, and when I was 1 month old, a man called Edward Said wrote an article in the New York Review of Books, and he said the Palestinians almost need a permission to narrate their own story. This has been the most tragedy of the Palestinian writing exercise for the last 20 years. Everyone spoke about the Palestinians, and the Palestinians were kept behind gateways, whether by the publishing industry, or whether by the media industry, or whether by the book industry at large. And this book lives on the traditions which Edward Said started in the 80s of giving the Palestinians the right to tell their own story in their own words, in their own way. And I'm very, very honored to be part of this project. I want to read a short story that was given to us by the theater play director in Gaza, a guy called Hussam al-Madhoun, who kept a very, very vivid diary all throughout, and I encourage you to seek it out. I hope it will come out in a book at one day. He was roaming the street of Rafah back in February. If you remember how this all started, it was supposed to be only in the north, and then the south, and then only in Rafah, and now every inch of the Gaza Strip has been bombed. He was walking just before the invasion of Rafah. He was walking in Rafah on February 18th, 2024. And he tells us this nice story. See yourself for a shekel. A boy in the market is holding a tiny piece of mirror, encouraging people to look at their faces for 1 shekel, 25 euro cent. He's making a living by offering a very rare service. I have not seen my face since I arrived in Rafah many weeks ago. You can't buy mirrors anymore. And anyway, a mirror is something you forget about in this situation. How do you look doesn't really matter. I ask him, do you make money this way? He tells me he does. Lots of people want to see themselves. I make 30 shekels a day or more. But you see him, the boy points to a man walking away from us down the street. He looked at his face. But he gave the mirror back to me without paying. I'm not stopping him though. He had a cut all the way from his face down his chest, long, horrible cut, not healed well at all. It was from shrapnel. He looked at his big, ugly scar, and when he gave me back the mirror, I saw he was crying. So I let him go. I took the boy's mirror. I looked in my face. It got very skinny. I have no mirror for shaving, so the stubble on my chin is all uneven. Some bits are longer than other bits. I'm a mess. I did not cry. I gave the child 2 shekels and continued walking. Mirrors are great daily objects for us, but I think the metaphoric concept of the mirror is even more important. When I look in my mirror, slightly tilted, are three of my young girls who are under the age of 12 now. I see them in 10 years, strong, feminist, Palestinian women. I see them looking at me and asking me, when this all was happening and you're watching it in your nice tablet, what did you do about it? So perhaps working on such a project, documenting this period of time, writing about these people's stories, is one stupid little way of preparing a very, very bad answer for a very good question that not me, all of us will get asked one day about. Thank you.
Now that was a mic drop moment, but we have a few more minutes. And I would like to add something that one of you said, which I found very strong, which is, and correct me if I quote you wrong, one of you said, we are not giving voice to the voiceless because Palestinians have voices and they've been using their voices, they've been talking, they've been shouting and screaming. It's only that the world did not listen. And I found that very important, so I'm sorry for adding your own words to your talk. Maybe a short question to both of you, one of you. What have been your experiences when pitching exactly that project with publishing houses?
We got some strange answers. Back when we were talking together, Mahmoud and me, and also our other two co-editors, Juliette Touma and Jayab Abu Safia, we presented the idea as a book proposal, as you would normally do to publishers. I'm based in the UK, in London. But we were getting pushback. Even at that time, it was January, February of 2024, publishers were saying, this is the wrong time for a book like this, which I found extraordinary.
Did you ask them what they meant?
Yeah, I mean, when you're faced with an answer like that, to say what is the right time seems somewhat irrelevant, because what's revealed is that their mindset is already fixed and they're not willing to countenance the idea of something going against their preset ideas. Another answer that we got was that there was no market for this kind of book, that publishers were telling us that they couldn't see where sales would come from. This is not a saleable book, which is also extraordinary and depressing that that would be a response from a professional publishing organization. One publisher, who shall remain nameless, responded to us that they were going to reject the idea of publishing this book because what they want, and they told us what everybody wants, is an account of October the 7th from both sides. And at that point, when the genocide was already clear, in that early point, to be faced with both sidesing from a very reputable, very well-known, high-profile, named London publisher, to be faced with both sidesing from them felt like an insult added to an injury. We were very lucky thereafter to make contact with Saki, who are here and will be handling sales in the back afterwards. Saki are a small London-based publisher who have a long track record of publishing fiction and non-fiction from the Middle East, going back to the 70s and the 80s in London. And it was such a relief to make contact with them, to get the response that they immediately understood the moral imperative of acting in the face of genocide. And to have to explain that to a publisher means that you're already losing. And already this is the wrong publisher for this book anyway. Saki was exactly the right publisher for this book. They understood, they supported us all the way through. They accelerated the process to such an extent because they understood that it was important to publish soon, not to hold this material for the usual lag times of 12 months or 18 months. So we published very, very quickly. We were gathering material in a matter of months. And between early 2024 and the autumn of 2024, the book went from conception to physical reality, which is testament to Saki.
Reminds me also of something that you once said, Mahmoud, that also the pace of the genocide also pushed you to work faster because people that you were in touch with were actually being killed, injured, you didn't find them anymore, you didn't know where they are, they didn't have internet. Also, thank you, Saki, wherever you are, for publishing the book. Mahmoud, I would like to ask you, you've been touring around with this book now a lot through many European cities, but you've also talked to people from all over the world. People read those stories from Gaza. What have been the reactions?
Well, there's two sets of reactions. There's the reaction of the people who read the book, and I think we're getting a lot daily. We're getting lots of emails of appreciation. Contrary to what the publisher said at the very beginning, the book is already in the 5th print and have already been reviewed by tens of people, and we're getting really good reception from people who actually knew a little bit and they're learning more from the book, but a lot of people who didn't know much at all, and the book has been insightful. I think what is also really touching for us is the people who are in the book getting responses from people who have read the book and reaching out to them. All the people in the book are real people. They all have their personal first names and last name. They all in the internet can be found, they can be reached to, and they've been getting a lot of emails from our readers saying, I was touched by your story, tell me more, and continuing that conversation and continuing to have a personal link with someone, a male, a female, we all relate to different characters in our books, but these are real people and they've been in touch with them, and it reaffirms our belief in humanity. When someone really strange in, I don't know, Stockholm or somewhere in Quebec or something, send an email to this lady or this man in Gaza and say, I read your book, I really felt touched with it and I want to learn more and I want to be your friend and I have millions of questions to ask you. This is really reaffirming our humanity. At the time when the Gazans for years have felt that they are killed with no noise, there is a blind eyes and deaf ears towards their massacres, and they are alone. And this act of reaching out through with the book has been really, really very important for the Gazans, for themselves, and I think that's very important also to kind of include in the response to the book. And now we're seeing other languages, and the book will be coming out in a few more languages. I think that will accelerate that a little bit more. Back of my head, I wanted to say that there's a lot of misunderstanding and there's less of misconceptions as well. So I hope the book is addressing that, and by reaching to a wider audiences, I hope we are also addressing that as well.
I have to say that also I, as a Palestinian, dealing with Palestine all the time, and I thought, well, probably this book is not going to surprise me, but well, I'm going to read it. I was moved much more than I would have imagined, because I somehow realized when reading the book that even me, as a Palestinian, talking to Palestinians, dealing with Palestine, I have stopped really sitting down at some point, breathing and internalizing the reality that behind each of those numbers that we so casually throw around, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, what does that even mean, you know? That there are like 1 million stories behind those numbers, and this really shocked me in a way, even though it seems so banal, but it's not. We tend to forget, and even I forgot, so thank you for waking me up and reshifting also my perspective on that. Matthew, I would like to ask you, what is the role and the importance of documenting and preserving stories in times of genocide? And also, what's the responsibility of writers?
Those are two huge questions.
I know.
the importance of preserving stories is the importance of preserving life, because without stories, we're nothing. Stories are what make human beings. And part of the process that has permitted this genocide to begin and to continue in the appalling manner that it has is because the people who are being killed have been dehumanized, have been reduced to nothing, have been reduced to numbers, have been reduced to a sort of a phantom existence by which they can be wiped out en masse. The importance of preserving stories in this context is to respect and acknowledge and to, as much as possible, to re-grant the people who are facing death, to re-grant them their humanity that has been denied them by the occupation, by colonization, by the genocide, and by the complicity of our own governments in supporting the genocide. To deny people stories is to deny them life. To silence people is to kill them. What is the role of writers in that context? The role of writers is the role of all of us. I don't think writers are special in this context. I'm very honored and privileged and grateful for the opportunity to be in the spotlight on this stage speaking before you today. But the celebritization of writers sits uncomfortably with me and sits awkwardly with me. We are not different from you. And each of us, as human beings, not just as writers, or as teachers, or as office workers, or as street cleaners, or as chefs, or as the CEOs, each of us has a responsibility to each person who is facing the onslaught that they're facing in Gaza now, to stand beside them. That's the job of writers, that's the job of each individual person here today.
You mentioned, Matthew, in your talk that you had the privilege as a Jewish man, a white man, a British man, to travel to Palestine, which is a privilege that most Palestinians don't have. And apart from that, probably you know that, but Palestinians themselves in Palestine are very segregated. Like Mahmoud, as a Jerusalemite, cannot go to Gaza. I, as a Palestinian with Israeli citizenship, cannot go to Gaza. I've never been to Gaza, and I've asked Mahmoud this morning, he has never been to Gaza. So as Palestinians, there is 1 million walls, checkpoints, fences, different documents that separate us from each other physically and also shape, in a way, our identity. So I was wondering, Mahmoud, I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but those stories from Gaza, how can they also play a role in shaping the collective identity of us Palestinians, the collective identity of a segregated people?
I mean, segregation is the thing that we wanted to fight against, if you like. Our peoplehood is not based on anything but a cultural identity that we share, norms, traditions, a language, a food. I said yesterday to friends, you know, if I'm invited to a wedding, whether that's in Australia or in Vienna or in Gaza or in Haifa, I know exactly what kind of wedding it's going to be. I don't know what should I dress, what kind of gift I should take. I know when to take the dancing floor, and I know when to stop dancing and leave the party. And I know the music that's going to be played in that party, and I know the tradition. It's a cultural identity is what unites Palestinians. And under cultural identity, and that's the word culture in the subtitle of this book, is what has been our way of sticking together, if you like. And inside cultural identity is a tradition of storytelling, and is the tradition of oral history, our oral history. We know our history by ourselves because we transmit it from generation to a generation. You will not be surprised if you look at the list of historical fiction published in Palestine that is mostly published by female Palestinians, because the strong tradition of a mother telling the story to the daughter is a very strong in our culture, and that's have been one of our ways of moving along our history and our identity. So such a book and all other forms of celebration of Palestinian culture and identity, when it's focused on not the bureaucratic segregated identity that you mentioned, but actually on the cultural identity that unite the Palestinians with, whether it's in music or art or language or food. You know, that's why we love hummus so much, and that's why we love za'atar so much, because it's us, it's ours, it's what bring us together as a whole, despite this physical segregation. I hope that at one point this unifying cultural identity will be our tool in stitching back the fabric of our physical segregation now, and we will have our moment in creating our nationhood in the common sense of the word as we use it today, whether that is a state of one form or another. But cultural identity is and will always be our vehicle, if you like, towards actual peoplehood and our unity. We take special pride, I must say this, in Frankfurt, we take special pride. That's our charter for independence and liberation is written by the national poet of Palestine. You know, and our dabke dance is everything we start with. And the ma'lube and the food is what we always serve. We care about all of these things too much, because that's our way of fighting the physical segregation that you're talking about.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud.
Let me just add 6 lines from a very wise friend of mine. His name is Nabil Tarazi. Tarazi are one of the indigenous families of Gaza who've been there for centuries, and he spoke to us for this book, and he said this, talking about identity and the importance of Gaza to Palestinian culture. He said, quote, "For us, Gaza is a symbol, a place that has stood for so many years against aggression, occupation, and genocide. Today, at last, the world is seeing who the Palestinians are. We are human, ordinary human beings, symbolized in what is going on in Gaza every day. Gaza matters because it is the place where the rebirth of the Palestinian nation will probably begin." Unquote.
Thank you, Matthew. Now I'm looking at the time. Time is running. Maybe we can collect 3 very precise, short questions from the audience. Is there someone walking around with a microphone? I see one hand there. We'll collect the questions, and then then it's on you to stay within the time frame. There is another one. Okay, please. Maybe you can introduce yourself very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just louder. Speak.
Okay. So my name is Hamdi Al-Farra. I'm a Palestinian heart surgeon living in Germany. And I really appreciate the idea of the book. But I really want you to make sure that a lot of people contribute to the donating the profit of this book for the medical sector in Gaza. People need a lot of help. Hospitals are destroyed, clinics are destroyed, and there is a lot of sick people in Gaza and need help. Thank you for this great book and for the great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another question over there. Is someone giving him the microphone? Ah, yeah.
I was only once in Palestine. I was in Bethlehem.
Can you try to get closer to the microphone and speak a bit louder? Thank you.
I was in Orthodox Christmas 2020 in Bethlehem. It was an excellent experience. I was there to support a Palestinian entrepreneur, a Christian, to build a hotel. They had already bought the building, but then later it was not possible to support her. And her last message was, "Can you help me to convert this building into a hospital?" I understood very well, but I was shocked. My question is, do we not need to have a similar type of stories also for the West Bank? Because everybody looking now at Gaza, but in West Bank, it seems like the Israelis want to really occupy it and destroy all the most of the Palestinian villages. What can we do to have a similar message from the West Bank?
Thank you. Maybe a last question, if there is anyone. Okay, so
Go first.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the idea of writing in this time and actually contribute, because a book is a commodity and it has a price, and authors are part of this commercial enterprise. We just choose to think about it differently, and we didn't want to personally benefiting financially of a product that is about war and people being killed. So that's why we choose medical aid for Palestinians, which is a British-based organization that has been working over the last 2 years and maintained presence in Gaza as well. And we're very honored that the book has been one of the ways to fundraising for them. Today we are helping Medico here in Germany, but actually buying the book, you're also helping medical aid for Palestine. And I think that the doctors are one of the real true heroes of this war, in addition to the journalists who have paid a very, very expensive price. Yeah, I mean, it is really sad, actually, the sector of health and education in Palestine, how it is. And I'm going to be a little bit self-critical here, but you'll understand why. We have so many hospitals and we have so many universities in such a small place. And yes, we can take pride in this, but there's a result why we need a university in every city that is 20 kilometers away from another city, and why we need 36 hospitals in Gaza, right? The reason is there has been a need for these hospitals, but actually the fragmentation and the dissecting of the physical space of the Palestinians, whether it's the West Bank or Gaza, resulted in the need to create so many institutions so people don't have to travel. And that's why, if you are in, I don't know, in Tulkarem, for example, the hospital in Naples, which is 15 kilometers away from you, is no good. You need another one. And it's not safe for students to go to Naples University, so we built another university in Tulkarem, and then another university in Jenin, and another university in Ramallah, and then 2 universities in Bethlehem, and then another university in Hebron, and so on and so forth. I mean, it does speak about how Palestinians values their life and they need health, but it also values our respect and importance for education, and that's why we need these institutions. But it also highlights the difficult life in which we live in which we cannot access freely. This is a problem because it also limits the interaction among Palestinians themselves, because students are meant to travel and go somewhere else, if not outside the country, at least north or south, and then different language and different cultures and so on will be blended. The fact is that we cannot travel means that we need to have these extraordinary numbers of institutions. I'm not taking away your call of supporting health and education in the West Bank as much as in Gaza, but I hope that at some point very soon we will not need so many universities and so many hospitals, and we can have large blending places where expertise and cultural interchange can happen. The topic of the West Bank is not for today, and it's a very, very tricky one, but it is really scaring me. What's the plans being drawn for the West Bank, and I hope I'm wrong.
Is there any more question? If not, I think we will close. There is another question. If you have a question, you need to make yourself, there.
Hello, my name is Fida Shtaya. I'm an author and publisher, and I was wondering if this book will be available in the bookshop in Jerusalem. Will that be sold there? Will it be banned? Will it cause you more troubles?
The book is available worldwide, including in Jerusalem. By the way, including in very few Israeli bookstores as well. The book is internationally published. It's available through all channels. not just in Jerusalem. We have issues worldwide that I think the festival has addressed over the last 2 days about censorship. But as far as I know, the book is still available in so many places, but I can assure you it's also available in Jerusalem. I wanted Matthew to close with like a 30 seconds reading, if that's possible.
This is, because their voices are much more important than our voices, this is a very, very short extract from Noor Swerki, who I showed her picture on the screen. This is one of the things that she said to us, quote, "My daily routine was amazing. I started my day walking beside the sea. After work, I would go to the gym, then spend the evening with my children and my friends. We had visits, we had outdoor activities. I miss this life. Everything now is turned upside down. I'm living my time minute by minute because we don't have safety. We can't plan. We have no idea if we or our loved ones will stay alive or not. We're looking for food. We're looking for water. Being a displaced woman is a tragedy. You don't have your own privacy. We don't have access to hygiene. We don't have any space. We are obligated to take care of everyone, the children, our elderly, our husbands, our sisters, our brothers, the whole family. To be a woman in this world, you are doubly victimized from the occupation and from the community. I want to be back in my home and to sleep safely," unquote.
Mahmoud and Matthew, really thank you so much for gifting us this book. And I think when we look at pictures of Gaza today where no building is standing anymore, it becomes clear what treasure those stories are and will be, I think, even increasingly for future generations. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. Please buy the book, have them signed, and donate to Medico. And have a good day. Bye.